Pour yourself a cold one.
Let's strike 'em, huh?
And listen to Ross Tucker break down the top college prospects on another tasty edition of The College Draft.
Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast, presented, of course, by DraftKings. It is also August 1st, which means it is time for all these college football players to report to camp. There will be games later on this month, actual games that actually count. You need to be fired up. I'm fired up. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years. Now I call college football games for CBS. I call NFL games for Westwood One and be doing the Eagles preseason games again. Love doing some games as a broadcaster. Love talking college football. You can check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I even have a TikTok, which I'm trying to grow. And then, of course, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Ross Tucker Pod. That's the best way to know, A, when the show has been loaded and is ready for you to listen to or watch, and B, to get the highlight clips of the other shows, maybe that you don't watch on the regular or listen to on the regular. You can also check those out at youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Speaking of YouTube, my co-host on this show is a full-fledged YouTube star. Football Game Plan on YouTube, at FBall Game Plan on Twitter. Footballgameplan.com/2023 draft guide is the draft guide. The great Emory Hunt. Emory, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Ross. It is August 1st, which means it is the 15th year anniversary of Football Game Plan's start. So I am excited. It feels like yesterday I was sitting in an apartment in Newark, New Jersey, coming up with the web design and what we're going to call this website, and to see where the progression has gone from website to, YouTube, the first, videos in 2009 to doing games, high school and college games like yourself, and to now being on CBS and also just continue to progress within the industry. It's been fun to see, and it's time really does fly when you're having fun, man.
That is amazing. I forget, what year did you graduate from college?
2003.
Okay, so you're a couple years behind. Did you redshirt?
I redshirt, yep.
Okay,
in
so
99.
you're really only 1 year younger than me. That's actually
41.
a hidden benefit, by the way. It's changed a little bit now, but I didn't redshirt in the Ivy League because, you just didn't do that back then. Now these guys, either because of COVID or because of injuries, a bunch of them get a 5th year. But the way I look at it, Emory, is that was 1 more year I got paid to play in the NFL rather than playing for free in college.
And what's interesting about that, 2 weeks ago when I was at the GLIAC Media Day, there was a linebacker, Julius Robertson, who is their best linebacker. He's 6'2", 226, smart dude, phenomenal player, right? And when you watch him play, you're like, man, this dude had to redshirt that first year, and he was scout team, defensive player of the week and a couple times. And I asked him about the benefits of redshirting, because like you said, nowadays you rarely see it, and some people see it as a knock. But I saw it as a benefit and he was like, yeah, I see it as a benefit because it let me get my mind right for college football. It let me get my, body right. And going up against, these seniors and guys that we had on the offensive line and who they had run the football, it helped me get up to speed faster, because a lot of people, a lot of high school players don't really understand, hey, man, you may be good here, but you're probably not physically or even mentally ready to play college football. And taking that advantage of the redshirt year is huge. Listen, and again, it helps build your confidence, because if you're out there, I know I was like, all right, if I'm killing the starting defense, I can play college ball, man. I'm doing well, and I'm working on my game. I'm learning the system, while also, learning technique, while also, running, whatever plays they want you to run during redshirt scout team. It's like, yo, this is not bad at all. This is an opportunity. And when you take that advantage, you really can hit the ground running your redshirt freshman year?
You know, I didn't redshirt. I actually played a couple games, started a couple games as a freshman defensive end. I don't know if I ever told you that. But I started against Colgate, Columbia as a freshman D end, and then Christmas break, man, too much Yingling, too many trips to the diner at 2 a.m. I think I left. I think I left for Christmas break probably at like 2:58, and I came back 283. I gained 25 pounds during Christmas break my freshman year. I mean, dude, I hadn't seen my friends in a while. My mom's making me great food. I wasn't, I'm 19 or whatever. I wasn't worried about it. Actually, I was still 18. Unbelievable. Think how like young you are
I know,
back
right?
then. And it's funny because I just did a speech recently. Not a speech. I just introed these 4 Princeton guys that were honored. They were seniors when I was a freshman. And so it's 25 years for them. So I honored those guys. I was like the MC. It's sort of like what you did a couple weeks ago or a week ago at the GLIAC. And I remember the nose tackle when they wanted to move me from defense to offense. The nose tackle was like, "Don't do it, man. The dark side. You can't go to the dark side. Don't do it." Because back then, Princeton's defense was really good and our offense really struggled. So I just said in front of everybody, it was like 150 people, Emory, Princeton football guys, because he was like, "Don't go to the dark. You can't do it. That'd be a terrible decision." I was like, "Good call there." Because I sure as heck wasn't making the NFL as a D lineman. I can assure you of that. So just funny story. All right. So today, Emory, by the way, congratulations on 15 years. That is amazing. Big fan of you. You know that. And all the content that you produce. Big fan of everything you do for this show. I can't highly recommend the draft guide enough. I mean, I tell everybody about it. Footballgameplan.com/2023 draft guide. Nobody has the depth and breadth. And I hate saying that about you, Emory, because I don't like pronouncing those words. Depth, I'm okay, but breadth gets me. The DTH gets me. Depth and breadth of Emory when it comes to the draft guide, including breaking down these Pac-12 prospects. I love that you got a running back number 1, Emory, and Zach. It's Charbonnet, right? The UCLA.
Charbonnet. Yep.
He transferred, right?
From Michigan, and he was someone that I watched in high school. Was like, all right, this Michigan, because again, Ross, we remember a time when the Michigan starting tailback was like a premier position, like it was at Texas, like it was at Texas A&M. Who's dotting the I in Michigan? Who's toting the rock? You think back to Anthony Thomas and all those guys, right? They trained
Tyrone Wheatley.
Tyrone Wheatley
was a bad boy.
Listen, people. I called Morgan State games when he was the head coach of Morgan State. And our first, production meeting, I'm like, Coach, first of all, I got to fan out. That game in the Rose Bowl was one of my favorite games to watch. I felt like Washington didn't understand how fast you was for a dude that was 6 feet, 235 pounds. So I had to fan out for a minute with that. Yeah, you're right. Michigan, Biaka Batuka, another one that was tremendous. So Charbonnet I was like, all right, Michigan got themselves a back. And he was playing really well. And he just transferred to UCLA last year. He had a breakout game against Hawaii and what he did against LSU. I just like his footwork. I feel like for a bigger guy, taller, bigger back, he has fantastic feet. And not just, pre-line of scrimmage, post-line of scrimmage. He's able to find the little lanes and make those cuts, those lateral cuts to get to where he needs to be. He may not have the top-end explosive speed, but I feel like he has the ability to be a productive back consistently at the next level. And I'm excited to see how he closes out this season. He was one of those guys that I thought probably would have jumped last year, but came back. And they excited for him and UCLA as, they're paired up with, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's been there for a good solid decade.
Unbelievable. I mean, he's like the Tanner Morgan of the Pac-12. Right. It's unreal how long he's been there. Speaking of quarterbacks, tell me about Cameron Rising from Utah.
I hate to use such an easy pun, but he's a guy that's rising up a lot of people's lists. Utah Utes. I'm a big fan of Winningham and their program, so I'll watch Utah play anybody. I don't care if they're playing my family. I'm rooting for Utah because I'm a big Winningham fan and how they play. Rising is someone that I think does a great job off script. He has good athleticism, good burst when he takes off and run. And he plays a lot like Taylor Heineke, kind of that breakneck style, and that, if you he's like the perfect movie quarterback. Is not, 1, 2, 3, get the ball out and technically sound, but he's a gamer. He's putting the women and children to bed and going looking for dinner, right? He's
Joe Kane.
He's Joe
Joe
Kane.
Kane.
You know what I'm saying? Like Kane is able. He's that guy. And so he's someone for me that he plays a lot off script, which is fine because not every quarterback should play the same way. But people are excited about him because he has a really good arm. I feel like, the anticipation has to be a little bit better, but a lot of things that he has are checking boxes, and a lot of people I know in the NFL like his game.
What about another Sewell at Oregon? This time it's Noah Sewell, the linebacker, Penei Sewell's younger brother.
People love comps and people hate comps. So if you're going to either love or hate this comp that I'm throwing out here, but he has a lot of Zach Thomas to his game, right? He's someone that just instinctively gets it, and he's able to get himself in position to make a play, whether it's, making a play and breaking up a ball or turning the ball over, or, sifting through the trash to get to the running back and make a stick at the point of contact and bringing them down. He's not one of these guys that's going to make tackles 17 yards down the field and rack up a lot of, 4 solo tackles, 85 assisted tackles. He's not that guy, right? He's a legit inside backer that has some good zone ability. There's a little bit of hip tightness, in my opinion, which is why he kind of compares to me like Zach Thomas. But in that same breath, we remember Zach Thomas at Texas Tech and how all over the field he was. I feel like Sewell is just like that, coming out of Oregon. So I'm a big fan of what he brings to the table. I like his ability. He's definitely one of the top backers, off-ball linebackers in the draft class.
Wow. You want to talk about people that have been in college for a long time. Our next guy, your number 4 guy, Oregon quarterback Bo Nix. I feel like was it not Bo Nix's true freshman year when he beat Oregon as Auburn's quarterback? He beat Justin Herbert, am I losing my mind right now? I watched that whole game. Bo Nix for Auburn against Oregon. Now Bo Nix plays for Oregon, even though his dad went to Auburn. He was Auburn's quarterback. What's the whole dynamic there? He just thought Auburn was in a bad spot and had to get out of there, or was he going to get beat out? Give me the lay of the Bo Nix land in Auburn.
First of all, his name doesn't even fit in the Pacific Northwest. He should have transferred somewhere in the South, because Bo Nix is a Southern name. You gotta play somewhere in the South. You can't be out there in the Pacific Northwest with a name like Bo Nix. That doesn't work. So I'm excited to see how it plays out from that perspective. But on the field, to your point, I think it's something that he had to. It was a combination of things. You had Big Ponchatoula out there as well for Auburn, and TJ Finley, the highly touted recruit that transferred in from LSU. You had Bo Nix's own inconsistent play that really had him draw the ire of a lot of fans, and so the uncertainty of the coaching situation as well. So with all of those things, it was like, you know what? I need a fresh start. I need to reset, how people view me, and going to Oregon gives him the best opportunity to do that, because with all his faults, and, this dude is a gamer, this dude is someone that he'll find a way. You go back and look how he played against Penn State. He had it was the Bo Nix, spectrum. You saw the man, that was a damn good play. Then he said, man, what were you doing? So it was an up and down. So if he can go out to Oregon and flatline this play, I know it's a new staff out there, but here's an opportunity for him to reset people's eyes and reset people's opinion about him. Because remember, there were talk last year that he could be a Heisman Trophy winner or a first round pick or the #1 overall pick in the draft going into the season. And that's just a lot of undue pressure that was put on him. Yeah, it's no fault of his own. But the reason why he's on this list is because I'm excited to see how can he change the narrative by going to somewhere unfamiliar and really thriving in a whole new scheme, whole new system. And it's funny, we joke about this all the time, but he's actually listed as a junior. Bro, he has been there forever. He is not a junior, you know what I'm saying? But with COVID, everybody's at least a redshirt sophomore or a junior. Nobody's a senior anymore, but they've been there 7 years.
I've totally lost track and given up on knowing when any of these guys are graduating or how much eligibility they have. I don't know how the NFL is keeping track of it anymore. I mean, they can't be. I mean, at this point, they really can't be. They just have to be like, all right, well, just let us know when you want to try to come to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. All right. I've been wanting to ask you about this guy. And I'm happy for him. He's doing what's best for him. My heart hurts a little bit for Pitt that he left after having such an awesome year with Kenny Pickett. But it's USC wide receiver Jordan Addison.
No one, I was talking with my homeboy the other week while I was in the airport, and we were talking about like the great Keith Jackson and how he made every game. You know, the player made the game what it is, but Jackson enhanced it. Like, and also guys like Brent Musburger. I felt like Ricky Williams' record-breaking run wouldn't have been the same had Musburger not been on the call. I feel like Vince Young's, game-winning touchdown against USC in the Rose Bowl wouldn't have been the same if Keith Jackson wasn't on the call. Heisman, hello Heisman wouldn't have been the same if, somebody else was calling the game for Desmond Howard. And I'm saying all that to say, we were talking about how guys used to really stay where they are in football and just thrive where they are. Like your Larry Fitzgeralds and those guys. Nowadays guys just move all around to where it kind of takes away the thing for that makes college football special. And Addison, I think, was someone that if he stayed at Pitt, he could have been up there with the Antonio Bryant's, the Larry Fitzgeralds, the tremendous amount of Pitt wide receivers, the Jonathan Baldwins, those the guys that they've had. And he's a really good receiver. I'm not taking anything away from what he's done on the field or what he's gonna do at USC. He's someone that has a lot of nuance in how he runs routes. He has a lot of ability in how he's able to track the football. His rack skills is what makes him special. So you can get him the football deep, short, intermediate, whatever. It turns into a kickoff return for him when he has the ball in his hands. And I just like his overall ability and how he sets up defenders, how he's able to explode and accelerate in and out of his breaks, knows when and where to gear up or gear down. But I just wish he would have done all of those things at Pitt. He's going to do it at USC, but the college football fan in me wish he would have just stayed at Pitt and thrived there, even with a different quarterback, which would have made his status even more of a rock star than what it's going to be playing with Caleb Williams out there at USC.
Yeah, I think he was skeptical of a new coordinator, new quarterback, able to go out to USC. Who knows how much NIL money was involved or whatever, but gets to play with a really good quarterback in Caleb Williams and gets to play as well for Lincoln Riley. Speaking of that, while we're talking about USC, what do you think? I know he's only a true sophomore, so he's not eligible yet. But what do you think of Caleb Williams, Emory? I know you haven't thoroughly evaluated him, but just watched him on TV. I'm curious.
I like his game. He's athletic. He's able to create. And that was the thing that ingratiated his ability when he was at Oklahoma. You just saw a completely different offense when he got in there in replace of Spencer Rattler. The ability to throw the football down the field, adding the running element, can be a legitimate threat in running the football. That was huge too. So for me, that all of what made him who he was. Now you get him back with Lincoln Riley, and you add a tremendous game breaker in Jordan Addison, and this guy we're talking about next in Travis Dye, who transferred from Oregon to USC. You know, I like Caleb Williams. And again, he's a true sophomore, but who knows? You know, he may have been out of high school a year and we just didn't know. But I know he was a true freshman last year. But he's someone that's going to be. I expect him to take that next step and be, you know, on top of a lot of people's list for 2024 draft.
Tell me about Travis Dye.
He's explosive, and he's a darter and a dasher. You know, he's able to plant that foot in the ground and dart forward or dash away from a defender. And he is paired up perfectly for what I expect to be a fast break offense here for USC. I mean, I liked him at Oregon. I thought he was criminally underrated as a runner at Oregon. It seemed like he was always making, you know, big game-changing runs and crucial runs. Despite being a slender guy, he was breaking a lot of tackles and it was explosive. Now you put him in a spread open sprint offense at USC. I just think he's going to do ridiculous numbers here for the Trojans. He's a great, I would say, third down type. I hate saying third down back, but you know, he's a guy that can be so effective without volume. And that's just music to the ears of NFL scouts.
What about a quarterback that I didn't know that much about until I saw Dane Brugler had him ranked really high? Tanner McKee from Stanford.
You talk about cut and paste quarterbacks. Like, there's a lot of Davis Mills in what McKee does. Now McKee has good velocity on his passes. Footwork is all out of whack, so he's got to improve on that. And he has to work on that to get that consistent. His lower body mechanics, I feel like, are a little bit inconsistent, but him throwing the football and he's able to put the ball where it needs to be. He's played well situationally. And I feel like where he gets in trouble is because his lower body is not in sync where he's throwing the football, and the ball could be a little bit behind, could, you know, sail a little bit high. So he has a lot of work to do. But when it's on, it's pretty. It's just like Davis Mills. So again, he's someone that he played well last year for Stanford. And if he can build on that and tighten up his mechanics and be more consistent in his placement, I feel like he has a chance.
Another quarterback, man, we got a lot of quarterbacks here to discuss. Washington State quarterback Cam Ward.
No one knew about Cam Ward until they saw football game plans, you know, FCS kickoff show every Saturday morning from 11 a.m. Eastern time to noon Eastern time on Next Level Sports, right? Because we had Cam Ward on the show. He was a quarterback at Incarnate Word, played in the Southland Conference. They are like the Big 12 of the FCS. This dude Ward won the Jerry Rice Award 2 years ago which is the top freshman in the FCS. He was in line for the Walter Payton Award, which is the Heisman Trophy of the FCS, but got beat out by another Southland quarterback in Cole Kelly, who's at Southeastern Louisiana, who's now with Washington. But Ward, and I don't throw this around lightly, but comparing his game looks a lot like Steve McNair at Alcorn State. So when the head coach or the OC, I forget who it was, got the job at Washington State, you knew it was a given that Ward, he had outplayed his competition and he was going to find a way to get to Washington State. Transfers out, goes to Washington State. I think he almost immediately makes Washington State a dark horse in the Pac-12 because of what he can do throwing the football. You got good quarterback play. You're already on the plus side of the win column in football. He is excellent. He's a dark horse Heisman candidate. He's a pro prospect. This dude really can throw the football. He's a very good athlete that has a running component as well, but his passing, and when I say his passing, I'm talking about not, you know, efficient to where it's, you know, you could move the offense. I'm talking about big throws, big time throws. If you look at the Emory Hunt Football Focus numbers, his big time throw rate is where it needs to be. And so that's according to EFF. You know what I'm saying? So the EHFF. So Ward is someone people will be talking about a lot of as the season goes on.
EHFF. I love it. All right. What about what about a linebacker from Arizona State, Merlin Robertson?
Bro, how long he's been there? Like, he was like a Pac-12 freshman a year in 2018. 2018 feels like a decade ago. Because, you know, if you think about what we've been through the last couple of years, 2018 seems so far away. Then I felt like 2020 was 2 years in one. And then 2021 was a year and a half. I feel like we are so far removed from his freshman year. He's someone that came back for a 5th or 6th year or whatnot. But he was so good as a freshman. He was like, oh, this dude's going to be a future first-round pick. And then he just kind of tailed off a little bit at each year. But you like his length. You like his ability to you know, step in front of passes in zone coverage. I feel like he's more he reminds me of Jelani Tavai when he was at Hawaii, a guy that could play in the middle. He could play Sam backer. He could play weak side backer. So he could probably, you know, rush with his hand in the dirt. So he gives you a lot of flexibility. But I want to see him get back to that freshman year Robertson, you know, when he was out there just making all kind of plays. And I'm a big fan of what he was doing and how he has the size that you look for and it has the ability. But it just feels like we've seen him so much because he played a lot of ball that you don't know if he's gotten better or if he's just kind of stayed the same. I had the same issue with Josh Rosen when he was at UCLA. We were so amazed at what he did as a freshman because you don't normally see freshman quarterbacks step in and play like that. But when you really watch me, like, man, that was he flatlined after that. He didn't get better, didn't get worse, but he just didn't progress. And I feel like we're seeing it with Robertson. So I hope that's not the case. I hope he gets back to what we saw earlier in his career because you don't want to see a guy be maxed out as a young player.
Lastly, Emory, let's get into Andrew Voorhees, the lineman from USC.
You know, you want to see him activate his hands a little bit better and quicker because I feel like defensive players are able to get their hands on him first inside on his chest, and it really kind of puts him in a bind. But he's so quick off the ball. He has good footwork and good mobility that he's able to climb to the second level rather seamlessly and execute blocks. But you want to see his hands be a little bit better in that regard because, again, hand usage, you know this, Ross, is paramount as an offensive lineman, especially when you go into the NFL, because you're facing the best of the best from a physical standpoint, athleticism standpoint, and in some cases from a technical standpoint. If you are not good technically, then everything else doesn't even matter.
Speaking of best of the best, his name is Emory Hunt at FBall Game Plan on Twitter, Football Game Plan on YouTube. I say it all the time. If you're not subscribing, why not? Please subscribe to youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL while you're at it. Footballgameplan.com/2023 draft guide. Really appreciate those of you that give us the 5-star reviews. It's awesome. It helps quite a bit. Just real quick on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or however you listen, just do the 5 stars. If you can make a written review for a sentence, that means a lot as well. Other than that, Emory?
The keg is kicked. We are all tapped out.
Thanks for listening to the College Draft Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, Even Money, and The Business of Sports. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.